Okay, next up is Kylie Baker from CEF. She's going to be talking about expanding access and belonging through inclusive science communication at the Pacific Northwest Cooperative Ecosystem Study
Wow,
Unit.
you got it. Yeah, kind of figured hit the nail on the head. Awesome. So what is the Pacific Northwest Cooperative Ecosystem Studies Unit? Besides a mouthful, it is a national network with 17 different regions. We are the Pacific Northwest region, which was established in 2000 and is clearly hosted by the University of Washington. There are over 300 total partners across the network. We have 39 within our region. We have a map of our partners here. You can see it can go beyond the Pacific Northwest area. And the network is basically having these partnerships between our partners, which are different federal agencies, academic institutions, nonprofits, tribal organizations, and they'll initiate different research projects that help support research, technical assistance, and education that are largely focused on natural and cultural resource management. You can see some of our stats at the bottom of the number of projects that have happened through us since 2001. But it's unique because there's a 17.5% indirect cost rate, which is much lower than typical overhead rates. Now, my project is regarding the CESU's communication initiatives. The screenshot here is our national website at the moment. It is undergoing a big redesign, but it's just showing that if you were to try to learn more about the CESU, may be a bit difficult right now. And I felt like there was a bit of a barrier to entry, that the information was more targeted to existing partners or more technical audiences, and the accessibility wasn't as consistent across the pages. So my goal for the Pacific Northwest region, our website, was to increase our accessibility, the website navigation and readability, to have more inclusive and audience-centered communications materials, and overall reduce the barriers to engagement. So my purpose statement is to increase access, participation, and belonging by ensuring our communications clearly reflect and serve diverse audiences. Now, why this project? Communication is very important. It can open doors, build belonging, increase participation, but also unintentionally exclude audiences. Very personally motivated by this project, as I find myself really passionate about being at the intersection of more complex research and sharing it with the public and getting people involved. These are our project highlights, which is an initiative I started with the Pacific Northwest region, where I'll interview different researchers, write an article about the work they're doing with these projects happening through us, and then share it out to our network. So just trying to show the pace of the work that's being done and get more people involved. It also really aligns with my interest in making conservation work more publicly accessible. And I thought it was very practical, as I can create unit level changes at our region, but then create a framework to scale it across the other regions in the national network, so there's more consistency across the network. But something I've really learned from this position is how important the collaboration is towards scientific progress. Many of these projects have such a blend of different partners, and you can see they all bring different things to the table. And to have that collaborative element, you need inclusivity and wanting people to be involved, and it all leads toward the betterment of scientific progress. So what I've been working on more of the back end of our website, I've been giving a lot of love to our different web pages. I've noticed, this is just an example with the UW page on our site. We didn't have the best navigation. There wasn't really clear headings. And if you were using assistive technology, it may be more difficult to read. So trying to increase any broken links, have more descriptive text instead of just like click here, and overall improving the readability and navigation. So really just giving a lot of time to our different web pages. But also on more of the front end, I've been trying to increase the transparency and inclusion. So I've created pages such as a about the Pacific Northwest CESU or a frequently asked questions page, and really added a lot of info and cleared up our how to apply for partnership and how to initiate a project page. So if you came across our website and you didn't have much information about what we were, then you have it all there and it's clear, and it's not as geared towards already existing partners. It can be, more inclusive overall. So what is needed for CESU communication initiatives? More consistent accessibility standards, the clearer pathways for engagement, as I mentioned, more audience-centered communication instead of just internal within the partners, better representation of diverse partners and projects, and then ongoing systems where we can gather feedback and then incorporate that into our work. And my project supports this as I'm embedding accessibility into the already existing workflows. When I do the calls for project highlights, I do it to all of our partners, so it's very open. If anyone wants to have an article, have that dialogue, we can. And then if I do reach out to partners, I try to find partners who may have a bit less projects or more cultural projects if I've been focusing more on, wildlife conservation and such. So we really show the blend of work happening within the CESU. And thankfully, there's a lot of resources at my disposal, such as this fellowship, UW. This is the UW accessibility page. They've got different LinkedIn learning pages or Deek University training. So thankfully, there's a lot of resources that I can incorporate into our work and I want to bring to the rest of the network. But a key point is that the inclusive communication should be built into systems and not just treated as an extra step or an afterthought. And this also will help it be more sustainable long term instead of just trying to always, tack it on at the end. So how can we measure success? Qualitatively, we can gather partner feedback on the changes we made and overall the clarity, accessibility, and usability of our communications. There's increased visibility of partner work and a greater sense of transparency and belonging. Quantitatively, there's a lot of different ways we can go. The number of updated communications materials. I track our website engagement through Google Analytics, as you can see here, so I can notice if there's any increased use of different pages. Thankfully, also UW has a great resource called DubBot, which will analyze your whole website and give you an accessibility score and then show you different areas that can use improvement. So this is our DubBot score at the moment. There'll be an increased use of informational resources and pages, and then a greater diversity in the featured partners and projects. And something I want to say is that the key takeaway is that the success is a process, and these small, consistent changes will build towards the greater goal. Getting the score back and seeing all the different pages to work on can be a bit overwhelming, but knowing that slowly chipping away at it and making progress is, moving in the right direction. And as long as you're continuing to make that work, it's going towards, the greater goal. So the projected impact and broader importance, our direct beneficiaries are the CESU partners and collaborators. Any interested partners, as we made the pages for interested partners a lot more accessible, and broader public audiences because of the project highlights and getting our work out there. The impact on the Pacific Northwest region is it supports the CESU goals of collaboration, public service, and accessibility, and is once again making our research more widely available. And more broadly, it improves public access to environmental knowledge and supports more inclusive participation in conservation work. I had to include some really cute animals. We got the northern spotted owl, western snowy plover, and Pacific martin. These are all projects that are happening that are project highlights available if you'd like to read more about the work happening in our region. But more broadly, publicly funded science has its greatest impact when more people can access, understand, and participate in it. So finally, the next steps are to continue to develop our sustainable accessibility practices and create this long-term framework that can be applied to other regions in the national website. So there's consistency across our network. And I'd also want to gather and incorporate any feedback from our partners. Shameless plug, I mentioned it a few times. We got a QR code for our project highlights page if anyone would like to read about the work we're doing in our region. But a key takeaway I've really gathered from this is how scientific progress depends on the collaboration, and meaningful collaboration depends on the inclusion. And by making our communication more accessible and welcoming, we're strengthening our work for protecting natural and cultural resources and addressing these environmental challenges. So thank you, Corey, Anastasia, Rebecca, and my respective fellows for such a wonderful and educational program. Thank you. Any questions?
So when you're working on this website and getting the information out there, you mentioned that it was going to be like some partner projects that you're highlighting. Is that, and you also have your own projects in your particular group that you would be highlighting too? Like
Yeah, so once I entered this role, I started doing these project highlights where I'll then reach out to different partners and be like, if does anyone want to have an article written about your work? Because I felt like we have our project database, but who's going to be just looking at the stats of the database? You can't really learn what's actually going on in a region. So I thought that would be a great way to get it out there, have different communications materials, have a very readable article, and you can learn more of the work we're doing. So that was something that was already existing pre this fellowship, but I thought also incorporated the inclusivity element where I'll reach out to more diverse partners, like for example, we have a lot of projects with the National Park Service. Maybe y'all reach out to some who maybe have a few and they're like more underrepresented, so they feel more involved within the community. So kind of using our already existing communications initiatives and then trying to have more all for this like inclusive framework I've been building. I hope that answered your question.
The analytics component, like the page visitation boom, is really cool to incorporate a project like this. I actually hadn't heard of DubBot though. Is that just departmentally available or?
Yeah, I think it's across all of UW, so you can kind of input your website and then it'll like crawl it. I think I put down myself and Dan, my boss here, is administrators, so we're able to access it, and it's really helpful because then it'll show, oh, we recommend visiting these pages because they have the most, you know, accessibility issues and whatnot. And you can kind of go through and, you know, figure out all the different ways that you can improve your site. So it's a bit overwhelming, but it's also been very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting, and I think that's really cool incorporation in these types of outreach projects.
That explains why I get DubBot messages.
Yeah. Like what she signed me up for.
Otherwise,
Thank you so much.